The DNA results arrived on the morning of my ex-wife's wedding. I wasn't there. I was sitting alone at a small round table in a quiet hotel room in Savannah, near a window that looked out over a parking lot and a line of live oaks. The glass had that faint hotel haze you can never fully wipe away. A paper cup of coffee sat in front of me, lid half on, steam long gone. It smelled a little like cardboard and burnt beans. My phone was face down on the table. It buzzed once, then again. I watched it move the way you watch a storm line on the horizon. You don't need it to arrive to know what it's carrying. I didn't pick it up yet. 3 weeks earlier, I had smiled politely and signed divorce papers in a courthouse that felt more like a waiting room than a place where people's lives are split in half. They had paid me $3 million to disappear, and everyone in that room acted like the story ended the moment the wire hit my account. They were wrong. The night it started, my wife Megan kissed my forehead the way she always did when she wanted to appear gentle without actually being close. Her lips were cool. Her perfume was clean and expensive, something you'd buy at an airport store without looking at the price. The dishwasher hummed behind her, steady and mindless. The kitchen lights were too bright for that hour, bouncing off the marble countertop we'd chosen together years ago, like we were buying a future and not just a surface. "We're going to be fine," she said softly. I nodded because nodding was easier than asking questions I already knew the answers to. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. It was her mother, Patricia. "Evan," she said, too cheerful. The kind of cheer people use when they're about to negotiate something ugly. "Can you come by the house? We need to talk tonight." Megan didn't ask who it was. She already knew. She just reached for her coat. Efficient, practiced, like she'd already run through the steps in her head. That was when I understood this wasn't a conversation. It was a script, and I had missed the rehearsal. Her parents' house sat at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac in a neighborhood where the grass always looked trimmed the same way, and the neighbors waved without ever really looking at you. The entryway smelled faintly of lemon polish and money. The art on the walls wasn't there to be enjoyed. It was there to signal something. A low table was already set with glasses we hadn't asked for. Her father sat rigid on the couch, knees apart, hands clasped like he was bracing for impact. Patricia stood by the fireplace, posture upright, chin slightly lifted. And beside them, exactly where you'd place him if you were arranging a scene, was a man in a dark gray suit holding a slim leather folder. I recognized him from holiday dinners and uncomfortable small talk. Mr. Klein, the family attorney. "Let's be practical," Patricia said before I'd even sat down. An envelope slid across the table toward me, thick, cream-colored, heavy enough to feel intentional. Inside was a single page with a number printed so neatly it almost felt polite. $3 million in exchange for signing the divorce papers tonight. "Sign," she continued like she was explaining warranty coverage, "and move on with your life." Megan stood near the window with her back to me, staring out at the dark street as if it had answers she didn't want to hear. She didn't turn around, not once. I didn't ask why, I didn't ask how long, I didn't ask who. Betrayal rarely arrives all at once. It comes in fragments. A password changed, a late meeting that doesn't add up, a look that passes through you instead of landing on you. "What about the other part?" I asked calmly. Patricia tilted her head like she didn't understand the question. "The other part?" "The truth," I said. Silence. The kind of silence that hums louder than conversation. Her father cleared his throat. "This is best for everyone." I looked at Megan. She didn't look back. Something inside me went quiet. Not broken, just quiet. Like a room after the furniture has been removed. I gave a small smile. "Congratulations," I said. Patricia's mouth tightened. "Excuse me?" "On the new chapter," I replied. "The baby, the wedding. The life you were careful not to include me in." Megan finally turned. Her face wasn't guilty. It was irritated, like I was making this harder than necessary. Mr. Klein slid a folder toward me. "Divorce papers, NDA, confidentiality agreement." The confidentiality clause was wide enough to silence a lifetime. "Sign here," he said, voice smooth. "The funds will be transferred immediately." I picked up the pen, then paused. I want it notarized, I said. Filed at the courthouse, and the wire needs to be in my name tonight. Patricia smiled with visible relief, like she'd been holding her breath. Of course, she said. Whatever you need. They thought I was focused on the money. They didn't understand that money leaves footprints, and footprints tell stories. At the courthouse, the air smelled like old paper and cold air conditioning. People sat in rows holding folders, waiting for their lives to change quietly. I signed without shaking. Megan's hand trembled. Patricia signed like she was closing a real estate deal. The wire hit my account before we left the building. I saved the receipt, screenshot, email confirmation, cloud backup. 3 places, not out of fear, out of habit. When I got back to our house that night, my house for the last time, I packed slowly, not out of heartbreak, out of clarity. At the bottom of a drawer, beneath old insurance papers and a stack of warranty manuals we'd never used, I found a thin medical file. Mine. It was from years ago. A consult after a procedure Megan rarely remembered unless it was convenient to joke about. The doctor had been careful with his wording. Low probability of conception. Possible, but unlikely. I sat on the edge of the bed with the file in my hands. The room smelled like laundry detergent and something else I couldn't name. Maybe endings. My phone buzzed. A text from Megan. I hope you're okay. I didn't respond. I stared at the file and felt something unfamiliar settle in my chest. Not rage, not grief, focus. Because if she was pregnant, especially with twins, the detail I'd overheard once in a passing conversation, then someone was lying, and I had just been paid to leave the room before the truth arrived. I set the file down on the dresser, placed my phone face down again, and let the silence do its job. Then I started making a list of what I knew for sure. Dates, names, and what had been rushed, and what I needed to confirm next. I didn't leave town because I was running. I left because distance makes patterns easier to see. 2 days after the courthouse, I checked into a roadside hotel just outside Richmond, the kind of place designed to feel anonymous on purpose. Beige walls, muted artwork. A low, constant hum from the air unit that never fully shut off. Even the carpet looked tired. I put my suitcase on the luggage rack, set my keys on the desk, and stood there for a long moment with my hands on my hips, listening to the quiet. It was the first time in years that no one expected anything from me. I made coffee with the room's cheap machine. It tasted burnt and metallic, but I drank it anyway. Ritual mattered more than comfort. Then I opened my laptop and did what I've always done when something doesn't make sense. I organized. I created a folder on my desktop and named it something simple, Dissolution. Inside it, screenshots, PDFs, emails, timestamps. Divorce filing confirmation, saved. Notarized signatures, scanned. Wire transfer receipt, saved in 3 places. NDA, highlighted, annotated, duplicated. The confidentiality clause bothered me the most, not because it was strict, those always are, but because it was too broad. It didn't just forbid me from talking about the marriage or the divorce. It barred me from discussing anything related, including personal, medical, or professional circumstances. That's not language you write to protect feelings. That's language you write to protect reputations. I forwarded everything to Janine, a paralegal I'd known from college. We weren't close friends, but she was steady, and she had an eye for pressure disguised as choice. She called within 10 minutes. They rushed you, she said. No greeting, no small talk, just facts. That's not what amicable divorces look like. They wanted it done fast, I replied. People only rush when they're afraid of something showing up late, she said. Then she paused. Did they make you sign a loan? No attorney present? Yes. Any threats? No threats, just urgency. Janine exhaled slowly. Urgency is a kind of threat when money's involved. I leaned back in the chair and looked at the ceiling. The light fixture had a dead bug trapped inside the glass. I signed anyway, I said. I assumed you would, she replied. And honestly, that might have been the smartest move you could have made. You didn't fight the paperwork. You let them create the trail. That night, I slept 4 straight hours. It felt like hibernation. The next morning, my phone buzzed with an email notification from an unfamiliar address. No greeting, no context, just an automated header and a clean subject line. Prenatal paternity test appointment confirmation. I stared at it once, then read it again more slowly. Appointment date, Wednesday. Estimated results, Friday, 10 a.m. I wasn't listed as the patient. I wasn't listed as the father, but an old email address, one Megan and I had once used for insurance, was attached as an outdated emergency contact. It wasn't subtle. It was sloppy. They were in a hurry. I forwarded it to Janine without comment. Her response came back in all caps. Do not contact anyone. Save everything. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I already knew what she meant. If I called the clinic, if I asked questions, they could say I was interfering. They could frame me as unstable. They could put me back into the story, but as a problem. So I did the only thing that made sense. I stayed quiet. I spent that afternoon walking the edge of the parking lot, hands in my pockets. The asphalt shimmered in the heat. Cars came and went. A family unloaded suitcases in a cooler like they were arriving somewhere joyful. A couple argued softly near a vending machine, the kind of argument that evaporates once it's done. Life continued, casual and unaware. Back in the room, I opened social media without logging in, just enough to see what was public. Megan's family wasn't trying to hide anything. Photos of flower samples, venue walkthroughs, a caption under a champagne tower that read, "New beginnings are beautiful things." I didn't feel jealous. I felt replaced. Like a house that had been emptied, repainted, and relisted before the previous owner even found a new address. That evening, a message came in from a number I didn't recognize. Unknown. You should know they're pushing the DNA results before the wedding on purpose. Me. Who is this? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Unknown. Someone who doesn't like being told what to forget. I typed, erased, typed again. Me. Why tell me? The dots appeared, then stopped. No reply. On Thursday, Janine called again. They're laying groundwork, she said. NDA plus money plus speed. That's not closure, Evan. That's containment. Can the agreement be undone? I asked. She didn't answer right away. If there's coercion, she said carefully, or if material facts were hidden, especially medical facts, then yes. But you'd need proof, something concrete. I looked at the thin medical file in my bag. I have something, I said. Don't tell me over the phone, she replied immediately. Just hold it, keep it physical, and don't let it leave your possession. That night, Megan finally called. Her name lit up my screen like muscle memory. I almost didn't answer. Almost. Did you get there okay? She asked, voice thin and stretched, like she was trying to keep it from breaking. I did. Silence. In the background, I could hear muffled noise, music, laughter, planning, the sound of people building a life while pretending the old one never existed. I didn't want it to happen like this, she said. No one ever does, I replied. You didn't even fight. I took a slow breath. I didn't need to. She swallowed. I heard it clearly. You're acting like you know something. I know enough. Evan, she said, and there was something close to anger in it now. I'm not your enemy. I kept my voice even. I'm not your enemy, but I'm not your cover story either. Her breath caught. Then she hung up. Friday morning arrived too quietly. I woke before my alarm, showered, dressed, and sat at the small table by the window with my phone face down beside the coffee cup. The routine felt deliberate now, like an anchor. At 9:58 a.m., my hands were steady. At 10:01, my phone vibrated once, then again. At 10:02, it rang. I didn't pick it up immediately. I let it ring once more, just long enough to remind myself, silence is a decision, not a weakness. Then I answered. Evan, Patricia said, breathless but trying to sound composed. Are you somewhere private? I leaned back in the chair and looked out at the parking lot, where a man was loading suitcases into the trunk of a rental car. Yes, I said. I am. She exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for days. There's been a complication, she said carefully, as if choosing the right word might still save her. I waited. The results, she continued, voice trembling now, they don't say what we expected. I didn't ask what that meant. I didn't have to. Behind her voice I could hear movement, shoes on tile, a door opening and closing too hard, someone crying and trying to stop. I see, I said. A long pause, then quieter. Did you know about the test? I looked down at my phone, still face down on the table now that the call had connected. Like even in this moment, I didn't want to give it too much power. You were in such a hurry, I said evenly. I assumed you'd handle the details. Her breathing hitched. This isn't the time for that tone. No, I agreed. It isn't. A new voice cut in, loud and sharp. Derek, Megan's fiancé. I'd only met him once, but I recognized that kind of confidence right away. The lab screwed up, he said. That's what happened. Tests fail. They don't fail like this, I replied. How would you know? He snapped. I could have said what I was thinking. I didn't. Instead, I said, if you think it's wrong, run it again. Something clattered in the background. A chair, maybe. A hand hitting a counter too hard. Then Megan's voice came through, smaller than I expected. It's not wrong, she whispered. The line went dead. I didn't move for a long moment after that. I just sat there, listening to the hum of the air system, the distant rush of highway traffic, the ordinary world carrying on while something carefully built was starting to crack. Then my laptop chimed with a new email notification, subject line, update on prenatal paternity results. I didn't open it yet. I simply stared at the screen, hand resting near the mouse, and waited, because whatever they were about to send, they were finally sending it in writing. My phone rang 10 minutes later. It was Janine. They got the results, she said. No surprise in her voice, just confirmation. And it blew up. So I've heard, I replied. She exhaled, slow and controlled. Good. That means they're scared. I rubbed my temples once, not because I felt overwhelmed, but because I could already see where this would go next. When people lose control of a story, they don't stop trying. They just switch tactics. They're not done, I said. No, she agreed. They're just changing the angle. Listen carefully. Do you have the email open? No, I said. I haven't touched it. Good. Don't click anything from them yet. Forward it to me first, raw as is. We want headers, we want timestamps, we want chain of custody if it exists. There it was. The reason I'd called her in the first place. Rules, steps, not emotion. I turned the laptop slightly so the screen faced away from the window. Not paranoia, habit. Then I moved the mouse and hovered over the email without opening it. I right-clicked, forward, attached original. I sent it to Janine. Then I sat back and waited. For the first time since the courthouse, my silence didn't feel like absence. It felt like leverage. A minute later, her call came back. This is interesting, she said. I didn't ask how, I let her speak. The subject line says update, she continued, but the body is phrased like a correction. They're planting a reason to challenge the result. A reason like what? I asked. Like mishandling, like lab error, like chain of custody, something that buys time. I stared at the paper cup beside me. The coffee had gone cold hours ago. I hadn't taken another sip. How much time do they need? I asked. Enough to reset the wedding narrative, Janine said. Enough to get everyone on the same script. I pictured Patricia on the phone, breathless, trying to sound composed. Derek shouting about the lab, Megan whispering like she was already losing her grip. They're going to reach out, Janine said. You'll get another offer. I'm not for sale, I replied. I know, she said, but they don't. That afternoon, I checked out. I didn't go home, not yet. Home is where people know how to find you, and right now, I didn't want to be found. I drove south toward the coast, the kind of drive where the highway opens up and the landscape starts to look indifferent. Pine trees, billboard ads, long stretches of sky. I booked a room at a small inn outside Charleston. Nothing fancy. Creaky floors, salt in the air, a lobby that smelled like lemon oil and old wood, the kind of place people choose when they want to think without being watched. That night I walked along the shore. The sand was cold under my shoes. The ocean moved the way it always does, steady and unimpressed. Waves rolled in and pulled back like breathing. The horizon didn't ask anything from me. My phone buzzed constantly. I didn't answer. Texts from Megan, missed calls from Patricia, a voicemail from Megan's father, another number I didn't recognize that left no message at all. I didn't block them yet, not because I wanted the contact, because messages are evidence when people stop speaking carefully. On Saturday morning, I finally listened to Megan's voicemail. Her voice was openly crying now, not dramatic, just cracked and tired. "Please," she said, "this is worse than you think. They're all panicking. Derek is furious. My mom keeps saying we can fix this, but I don't know how. Evan, I didn't think it would come to this." I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the curtains fluttering slightly in the breeze. "I didn't think it would either," I said out loud, even though she couldn't hear me. By noon, a new email arrived. Subject: clarification regarding test results. The body contained a single sentence that was trying too hard to sound professional. There may have been an error in the chain of custody. Further review is underway. I forwarded it to Janine. Her response came back almost instantly. "They're trying to buy time. Don't give it to them." That evening, I got a call from a man named Caleb. I recognized the name faintly from Megan's work world, a support staff guy at the medical group her company partnered with, someone who handled scheduling, forms, insurance back and forth, someone who wasn't supposed to call me. "I shouldn't be calling you," he said quietly. "And I can't say much. I'm risking my job just talking." I didn't interrupt. I listened. "But someone pushed for that test to be rushed," he continued. "Off the books rushed. Special handling. No paper trail beyond the minimum." My grip tightened slightly on the phone. "Who?" I asked. There was a pause, a small sound like he'd swallowed hard. "Not Derek," he said finally. He stopped there, like he couldn't make himself cross the line. "Then who?" I asked again. The line went quiet. I could hear his breathing, fast, shallow. Someone who had already regretted calling. "I can't," he said. "Just save what you have. Don't let them corner you." Then he hung up. I set my phone down on the nightstand and stared at it for a moment. Not anger. Recognition. Because people don't warn you like that unless they've seen something they can't unsee. Sunday morning, social media went dark. No more wedding posts. No more smiling captions. No more venue walkthroughs. The silence was sudden and total. That told me more than any confession could. By Sunday night, Janine called again. "They're going to reach out soon," she said. "Probably with another offer, maybe a threat disguised as concern. If they try to meet, don't do it alone." "I won't," I said. "And Evan," she added, voice lower now. "You need to assume there's a leak inside their circle. The question is whether the leak is trying to protect you, or protect themselves." Monday came with rain, the steady kind that makes everything feel heavier. I sat in a small cafe near the pier, nursing black coffee that tasted like burnt wood, watching wet footprints appear and disappear on the tile floor. At 7:43 a.m., an email arrived from an address that looked like it had been generated by a machine. No greeting. Subject: "You deserve the full truth." The body contained only one line. "The father isn't a stranger. It's someone who's been in the room the whole time." My stomach tightened, not in shock, but in recognition, like hearing a word you already knew, but hadn't said out loud. A second message followed seconds later. "If you want proof, meet me tomorrow." 7 a.m. Alone. I have the audio. I closed my laptop slowly. The waves outside crashed against the rocks below the cafe, loud and final. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel frantic. I felt precise. Step 1. Tell Janine. Step 2. Verify this isn't a trap. Step 3. If it's real, secure the evidence before anyone can bury it. I forwarded both emails to Janine without adding a single word. Then I sat back, hands folded around the coffee cup, and waited for her call, because I could already feel it. The truth wasn't something I was going to chase. It was running toward me. And it was panicking. I didn't reply to the anonymous email. Not because I was scared of what it said, but because I understood what it meant. People don't offer audio unless they're already losing control. And people who are losing control tend to make mistakes. The question wasn't whether the message was real. The question was what it was trying to make me do. I paid my check, walked back to the inn in the rain, and kept my phone in my pocket the entire way. The streets near the water were slick and quiet. A few tourists moved under umbrellas, shoulders hunched, looking annoyed at the weather like it had personally insulted them. In my room, I didn't sit down right away. I laid everything out on the small desk like I was preparing for a meeting. Emails printed to PDF, screenshots saved with timestamps, voicemail exported, call logs photographed. I also wrote down a simple timeline on a legal pad, not for drama, just so the facts stayed clean. Divorce signed. Date, time, courthouse location, wire transfer received, exact minute. Prenatal test confirmation email, date received. Results call, Friday, 10:02 a.m. Chain of custody, email, Saturday. Anonymous audio email, Monday, 7:43 a.m. Then I called Janine. She answered on the second ring. "Tell me you didn't respond," she said. "I didn't," I replied. "Good," she said. "Now we do this like adults. You don't go alone unless we've locked down safeguards." "I can do safeguards," I said. "I know you can," she replied, "but we do them anyway." She spoke in steps like she always did when something mattered. "Step 1, she said. "You forward me everything again, raw originals, not screenshots this time. The full email source if you can. I want headers, routing info, time zones. I already sent them. Step 2, she continued. You treat the meeting like it's either a frightened witness or a setup. So you pick a public place with cameras. You arrive early, you sit where you can see the door. You don't hand your phone to anyone, and you don't take anything that can't be duplicated immediately." "And step 3, I asked. There was a pause, and I could hear her pen moving. "Step 3 is simple," she said. "If the audio is real, you don't confront anyone. You bring it straight to me. We let the evidence do the talking." I looked out the window at the rain streaking the glass. "Where is the meeting?" she asked. "Tomorrow, 7 a.m. They said alone. Janine made a sound that wasn't quite a laugh. "Of course they did." "They named a diner," I said. "Off a highway. Route." "Doesn't matter," she cut in gently. "Text me the address. And turn on location sharing with someone you trust." "I don't need—" "Evan," she said, not harsh, just firm. "This isn't about pride. It's about control. You want control? You build a structure around the moment." I didn't argue. I texted her the address the email had provided, a diner just off Route 17, tucked between a gas station and a car wash. The kind of place people only notice when they're desperate for coffee or trying to disappear. That night, I slept in pieces. Not because I was anxious, because my brain was doing inventory. At 5:40 a.m., I got up, showered, dressed in plain clothes, and left the inn before sunrise. The rain had stopped, but everything outside still looked washed clean, like the world was pretending nothing happened yesterday. I drove with the radio off. On the passenger seat, I kept a thin folder with copies of everything: the divorce filing, the wire confirmation, the test emails, my timeline. Not because I planned to show anyone, because the act of organizing kept me steady. I pulled into the diner parking lot at 6:37 a.m. The neon sign buzzed faintly, one letter flickering like it was tired of keeping up appearances. Inside, the air smelled like bacon grease and burnt coffee. A few early regulars sat in booths, reading the paper or staring into mugs like they were trying to wake up from a life they didn't choose. I picked a booth near the wall with a clear view of the entrance, not paranoid, practical. I ordered black coffee, no sugar, no cream. I wanted the bitterness clean. At 6:58, my phone buzzed once. A text from the unknown number. "Here, back booth. Don't look around." I didn't turn my head. I didn't scan the room. I took a slow sip of coffee and waited. At 7:03, someone slid into the booth across from me. A man in a faded baseball cap and a plain jacket. Mask pulled up high like it was cold outside even though it wasn't. His eyes moved too much, door to counter to window, like he was tracking exits out of habit. He didn't say my name. He didn't greet me. He set a phone on the table between us, face down, and pushed it toward me with 2 fingers. "I can't stay long," he said quietly. "Then don't," I replied. "Talk fast." His jaw tightened beneath the mask. "They told us it was urgent," he said. "Special handling, confidential, no paper trail beyond the minimum." "Who told you?" I asked. He hesitated, then shook his head slightly like he couldn't say it out loud yet. "I thought it was just rich people being rich," he continued. And then I asked one question, just one, and I realized who was calling the shots. My hand stayed on my side of the table. I didn't reach for the phone yet. "What do you do?" I asked. He swallowed. "I work at the medical group, not a doctor. I handle intake sometimes, scheduling, transfers. I'm not supposed to see the stuff I see." I nodded once. "And the audio?" I asked. He glanced at the counter, then back at me. "I recorded it because I needed insurance," he said. "Because if this goes sideways, they'll blame someone like me. They always do." He unlocked the phone with shaking fingers and slid it closer. "It's all there," he said. "I'm not proud. I'm just tired." I didn't touch it immediately. I looked at him instead. "Why bring it to me?" I asked. His eyes flicked up sharply. "Because you already got paid to disappear, and they still weren't satisfied. That tells me you weren't the problem. You were the loose end." That landed cleanly because it was true. I took out my own phone and opened a file transfer app Janine had told me to use. Simple, fast, direct, no cloud links, no extra steps. "I'm not taking your phone," I said. "I'm copying the audio here now. You watch me do it, then you leave." His shoulders dropped a fraction, like relief. "Okay," he said. He turned the phone face up. The screen showed a single audio file, shorter than I expected, under 2 minutes. I started the transfer. A progress bar moved across my screen, slow at first, then steady. When it finished, I played the first second through my phone speaker, just enough to confirm it wasn't blank, and then stopped it immediately. The voice that came through was smooth, practiced, familiar. Mr. Klein, the family attorney. I kept my face neutral. I didn't give the witness anything to read. I saved the file twice. One copy on my phone, one copy sent directly to Janine in a secure message with a single word: audio. Janine's reply came back before I could lock the screen. "Do not confront. Leave now. Come straight to me." I looked up at the man across from me. "You did the right thing," I said. He gave a short, humorless exhale. "I hope that's true." He slid out of the booth quickly, dropped cash on the table without counting it, and walked out without looking back. I didn't rush after him. I didn't call out. I just sat there for a moment with my hands around the coffee mug, letting the normal sounds of the diner press in: forks clinking, a cook calling orders, the soft squeak of shoes on tile. Ordinary life happening right on top of something that wasn't ordinary at all. Then I stood, put my phone in my pocket, and walked out into the morning air, already moving toward Janine's office, because whatever was on that recording, I wasn't going to use it like a weapon. I was going to place it carefully on a table and let it speak for itself. Janine's office was in a low-rise building behind a row of medical clinics and a dry cleaner. Nothing dramatic. No marble lobby, no security desk. Just a narrow hallway, a waiting area with a tired ficus plant, and a receptionist who looked up once and went back to her screen. Janine met me at the door to her office like she'd been standing there waiting. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't ask if I was scared. She held out her hand. "Phone," she said. I gave it to her without a word. She connected it to her laptop, copied the file to 2 encrypted drives, and then played the recording through a small speaker on her desk. She listened once without moving. Then she played it again, slower, eyes down, pen making quick notes like she was transcribing a deposition. I sat in the chair across from her and watched the process instead of the audio. The way she paused at certain words, the way she circled a phrase and underlined a time reference. When it ended the second time, She removed her glasses, leaned back and stared at the ceiling. "This changes everything," she said quietly. I didn't respond right away. I didn't need to. The room was calm enough to let the truth settle where it belonged. "What are we looking at?" I asked. Janine turned her laptop slightly so I could see her notes. "Fraud," she said. "Coercion, abuse of authority, interference with medical procedures, and, most importantly, intent." She tapped the line she'd underlined. "They weren't trying to learn the truth," she continued. "They were trying to control when it arrived and how it would be interpreted. That's the difference between panic and orchestration." I nodded once. That matched what I'd felt from the beginning. The speed, the money, the language in the NDA that was built like a cage. "I don't want a public spectacle," I said. "And I don't want those kids punished for adult decisions." Janine's expression stayed steady. "Then we keep it clean. We keep it legal. We keep it contained to the people who created the mess." My phone buzzed on her desk. Megan again. Janine didn't hand it back. "Let it ring," she said. I watched it light up, then go dark. She opened a new folder on her computer and began organizing evidence like she was building a case file from scratch. Labels, dates, cross-references. Her hands moved with calm confidence, no drama, no triumph. Then she looked up. "They're going to try to meet," she said. "Soon, before the wedding, or immediately after. They'll offer money, they'll offer amendments, they'll offer a fresh start." "Let them," I said. Janine's eyes held mine. "If you meet, it's on our terms. Controlled environment, witnesses nearby, no surprises." I didn't argue. I didn't need to. By late afternoon, my phone had a voicemail from Megan's father asking to talk in person. His voice sounded strained in a way I hadn't heard before, like he was lifting something too heavy and pretending it wasn't. Janine listened to it once and nodded. "Okay," she said. "We do it." "Where?" I asked. "Not their house," she said immediately. "Not the club. Not somewhere they can control access. We do it in a conference room with glass walls, neutral, public building. If they want privacy, they can live with transparency." She made one call, then another. By evening, the meeting was set for the next morning. 9 a.m. A rented conference room in a business center near the courthouse. Glass walls, standard table, security cameras in the hallway. Janine printed 2 copies of everything and placed them in a folder with my name typed neatly on the tab. "Tonight," she said, "you don't answer calls, you don't argue in texts. If they send anything new, you forward it to me." "And if Megan shows up at my door?" I asked. Janine didn't blink. "Then you don't open it. You're not cruel. You're controlled." That night I stayed in a different hotel than the one I'd used before, a small one near the courthouse, plain and quiet. I slept in fragments again, not from fear but from anticipation, like my mind was preparing a room for something heavy. At 8:40 a.m., I walked into the business center. The carpet smelled faintly of cleaning solution. The air was cool and overly filtered. A receptionist pointed me toward the conference area with a polite smile that didn't mean anything. Janine was already there, seated at the table with her yellow legal pad and a pen placed perfectly parallel to the edge. She looked up. "You ready?" "I've been ready," I said. At 8:55 the door opened. Megan walked in first. She looked like she hadn't slept. Her eyes were red, but her makeup had been reapplied carefully, like armor. Her posture was stiff, shoulders slightly raised, the way people stand when they're bracing for impact, but don't want anyone to see it. Her parents followed, tight and pale, moving as a unit. And then Mr. Klein stepped in last. Same immaculate suit, same calm expression, same measured pace like he was moderating a board meeting, not walking into the aftermath of his own recording. "Mr. Walker," he said smoothly, "thank you for coming." I didn't stand. I didn't offer my hand. "I didn't come for you," I said. "I came to listen." Megan's eyes met mine for a second, then dropped. Not from shame exactly, from exhaustion. Patricia spoke first, as if the script required it. "This has become complicated," she said. "It was complicated when you put money on the table," I replied. Now it's just exposed. Klein lifted one hand gently. Let's stay constructive. Janine didn't react. She simply slid a folder to the center of the table and turned it so it faced Klein. He didn't open it yet. He waited, like he wanted to set the pace. I didn't let him. You paid me $3 million to disappear, I said calmly. Then you rushed a prenatal paternity test before a wedding. That isn't construction. That's containment. Megan's father shifted in his chair. You took the money. Yes, I said. And you left a trail. Klein's eyes flicked down to the folder, just briefly, a crack of attention he couldn't fully hide. Patricia leaned forward, hands clasped too tightly. We can amend the agreement. Of course you can, I replied. You always think you can. Klein slid a second folder toward me, thicker than the first. Expanded compensation, he said. Updated confidentiality terms. We'd like to resolve this quietly. I didn't touch it. Instead, I placed 3 items on the table in front of me, aligned neatly: the wire transfer receipt, the notarized divorce filing confirmation, a printed copy of the NDA with my highlighted annotations. Klein's eyes dropped again, this time more openly. You paid me, I said. You rushed me, and you tried to silence me. That's pressure, and pressure leaves fingerprints. Megan's father pushed his chair back slightly, not standing, but preparing. This is absurd, he said. No, I replied. What's absurd is thinking you could erase me without consequence. Klein's voice stayed even. Mr. Walker, we're trying to protect the family. I leaned back in my chair. From what? I asked. He didn't answer. And in that silence, something important happened. Klein's phone vibrated on the table. He reached for it too quickly and flipped it face down, but not before I saw the preview line across the screen. I can't hold this anymore. He's going to tell everything. The room went still in a way that felt physical. Patricia's face drained of color as she followed my gaze. Megan's mouth parted slightly as if she'd forgotten how to breathe. Klein's composure shifted, not shattered but adjusted, like a man realizing the floor under him had a weak spot. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't point. I just looked at him. You want to know what I want? I asked quietly. No one spoke. I want you to stop pretending this is about me, I continued, because it isn't. It's about whoever's been hiding behind your authority. Klein's jaw tightened once. This conversation is over, he said sharply. Janine's pen stopped moving. I stood. No, I said. It's just finally honest. I turned toward the door, and behind me I heard Megan whisper my name, soft, cracked, almost automatic. I didn't turn back. As my hand reached the handle, my phone buzzed in Janine's hand. A new message came through. Unknown number. They're on the way. Don't leave alone. Janine didn't hand me my phone. She read the message once, then slid it across the table so I could see it. They're on the way. Don't leave alone. Janine looked through the glass wall toward the hallway, calm as ever. Okay, she said. We wait. Klein stood halfway from his chair like he couldn't decide if leaving would look guilty or if staying would make it worse. This is unnecessary, he said. Janine didn't look at him. She opened her legal pad and wrote one line: time, location, participants. Then she said, "Sit down, Mr. Klein." It wasn't loud. It wasn't a threat. It was a direction. He sat. Megan's mother kept rubbing her thumb against her wedding ring over and over, like the motion could smooth out what was happening. Megan stared at the table, eyes fixed on the grain of the wood as if it might give her something stable to hold on to. I stayed still. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt clear. A few minutes later, 2 men appeared in the hallway outside the glass, Megan's father's friend from their circle, and another man I didn't recognize. Not security. Not police. Just help, the kind wealthy families summon when they don't want official records. Janine stepped out into the hallway, closed the door behind her, and spoke to them where everyone could see but not hear. Her posture stayed relaxed. She pointed once toward the building's cameras, then toward the conference room sign with the rental company name. The men looked at each other and backed off, slow and reluctant, like they had been reminded this place didn't belong to them. Janine came back in and shut the door. "Now," she said, returning to her seat, "we're going to finish this correctly." Klein's expression tightened. "Finish what? There's nothing to finish." Janine finally opened the folder she'd placed in front of him earlier. She slid out a single page, clean, typed, with a short transcript excerpt and a timestamp. Not the full recording, just enough. Klein's eyes moved across it once, then again, slower. His jaw worked as if he was chewing something he didn't want to swallow. Janine didn't push. She didn't gloat. She let the paper do what paper does when it's undeniable. "This isn't a negotiation anymore," she said evenly. "This is remediation." Patricia's voice trembled. "What? What is that?" Janine didn't answer her. She looked at Klein. "You involved yourself in the timing and handling of a prenatal paternity test," she said. "You coordinated pressure, payment, and confidentiality to create an outcome that protected reputations over truth. And you did it while trying to erase my client's role in the timeline." Klein's voice stayed smooth, but it had lost something. "You don't have context." Janine nodded once like she'd expected that line. "Then let's build it," she said, and tapped her legal pad. "Here are the facts we can prove without anyone's feelings involved. The divorce was signed under accelerated conditions with an aggressive NDA. The wire transfer was executed immediately. A prenatal paternity test was scheduled and rushed with special handling. The results came back days before a wedding. As soon as the results destabilized the narrative, the clinic received chain of custody language designed to create doubt. She turned the pad slightly so Klein could see the neat list. "Timelines don't argue," she said. "They just sit there." Megan finally looked up. Her eyes were wet, but her voice was quieter than I expected. "Why did you do this?" she asked, not to me, straight at Klein. Klein didn't look at her. That told me more than an answer would have. Patricia leaned forward, desperate now. "What do you want?" It was the same question they'd asked the first night, like the only language they knew was price. I didn't raise my voice. "I don't want more money," I said. "I don't want your wedding. I don't want a public spectacle." Klein's eyes narrowed slightly like he was trying to find the trick. "What I want," I continued, "is for you to stop using my name as a tool." Janine slid a second document onto the table. This one was already drafted. It was a short statement, formal, precise, retracting any implication that I'd been paid because I'd done something wrong. No accusations, no drama, just a correction. "First," Janine said, "we retract the narrative that Mr. Walker was opportunistic, vindictive, or bought. That ends today." Megan's father's shoulders sagged in the smallest way, like that part was easy. "Fine," he said quietly. Janine nodded and moved to the next page. "Second," she said, "we unwind the unfair parts of the agreement. Assets and accounts he contributed to, funds he placed, work he supported, are returned as property division, not a payoff. The NDA is rewritten to protect privacy, not to suppress truth." Klein shifted in his chair. "That would require—" "It requires signatures," Janine replied, calm and flat. "And the alternative is discovery." That word changed the air. Discovery meant subpoenas, depositions, phone records, calendar logs, clinic communications, the kind of process that doesn't care who you are. Klein's gaze went to my folder, then to Janine's laptop, then to the glass wall. He was calculating the way people do when they realize the room they built to control others can also trap them. "And third," I said, keeping my tone steady, "you handle the consequences for the children honestly. No scapegoats, no pressure on staff, no lab error story meant to spare adults embarrassment." Megan made a small sound, like her breath caught halfway. Her mother shook her head weakly. "You can't expect us confirm anything." "I'm not asking you to announce it," I said. "I'm asking you to stop covering it up in ways that hurt other people." Janine added, "That includes contacting clinic staff, threatening jobs, and pushing chain of custody narratives to stall reality." Klein's lips pressed together. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Megan's father said quietly, "What happens if we don't?" Janine didn't look at me for permission. She didn't need it. "If you don't," she said, "the recording and timeline become exhibits. We file motions regarding coercion and fraud. We request communications related to the medical procedure, and we notify the appropriate professional bodies where required." She didn't say names. She didn't have to. Klein's face tightened again, and this time it wasn't performance. It was restraint. Megan stared at the table, then finally said, almost to herself, "So the wedding." No one answered, because it was obvious. That part had already fallen apart on its own. Janine slid the revised agreement across the table. A new NDA, narrow, reasonable, focused on privacy for the kids, not silence for the adults. The money piece was restructured into clean property division. The retraction statement was included as an attachment, signed, dated, and enforceable. Klein picked up his pen last. His hand hovered for a moment, as if he wanted to negotiate with time. Then he signed. Patricia signed next, shaking slightly. Megan's father signed without looking up. Megan signed last. Her hand wasn't shaking now. She looked exhausted. But there was something else there, too, like a person finally admitting the weight she'd been carrying was real. When it was done, Janine collected the papers, made copies, and slid one set into my folder. She didn't smile. No one did. This wasn't victory. It was closure built from documentation. Klein stood first. "This remains confidential," he said, voice controlled. Janine met his eyes. "Privacy remains intact. Manipulation does not." Klein left without another word. Megan didn't follow him. She stayed seated, staring down at her hands. I stood, gathered my folder, and put my coat on slowly. Megan lifted her eyes to me. Her mouth opened as if she wanted to say something that might have mattered a month ago. I shook my head once, not cruel, just clear. "You don't have to explain," I said quietly. "You already did, when you let them speak for you." I walked out with Janine beside me in the glass-walled room behind us, and I didn't feel heavy the way I expected to. I felt organized. At my car, Janine handed me my phone back. "Go home," she said. "Not to argue, not to revisit, just go home." I nodded, started the engine, and placed the folder on the passenger seat like it was something fragile that didn't need emotion, just protection. Then I drove toward the life that was finally mine again, with the rain-washed streets behind me and one last quiet part still waiting to be finished. I got home in the late afternoon when the light was soft and the neighborhood looked ordinary again. The kind of ordinary people fight to protect, even when their lives aren't. I parked in my driveway and sat for a minute with both hands on the wheel. No shaking, no relief that needed to be announced, just a steady exhale. Inside, the house smelled like it always had. Clean air, faint wood, the lingering trace of detergent from a recent wash cycle. I walked through each room slowly, not because I was sentimental, but because I was resetting something in my own head. First things first. I set the folder on the kitchen table. I took my keys out. I opened the drawer where I kept spare batteries and old receipts and found the small label maker I hadn't used in a year. Then I moved in steps, simple and quiet. Step 1. I changed the locks. I didn't do it dramatically. I watched a short tutorial on my phone, laid the parts out on a towel, and worked through it carefully. The metal pieces clicked into place with that clean sound of something becoming final. Step 2. I documented closure. I scanned the signed retraction statement and saved it in 2 places. I scanned the revised agreement, saved it, and printed 1 copy for a physical folder. I wrote the date on the tab and filed it in a drawer that didn't need to be opened again unless something went wrong. Step 3. I cleared the noise. I deleted old shared accounts. I removed the emergency contact settings that still carried Megan's information. I changed the passwords that were too familiar. One by one, I made it harder for the past to reach into the present. That evening, I made tea, chamomile, the kind that tastes like nothing but warmth. I stood by the kitchen window and watched the sky darken over the rooftops. A dog barked twice somewhere down the street. A car door closed. Ordinary sounds. Grounding sounds. My phone lit up once more. Megan. I didn't hesitate. I deleted the contact. Not out of anger, out of order. Some endings don't need fireworks. They need air. Over the next few days, the outside world filled in the blanks the way it always does. The wedding didn't happen. People noticed. People asked. And then, slowly, the questions moved on to something else. Because most people don't actually want the truth. They want the comfort of a story that doesn't require them to pick a side. The difference was, this time, my name wasn't used as a tool. Not in whispers. Not in polite lies. And when a distant cousin of hers tried to message me late one night with a casual, "Hope you're doing okay," the tone of it felt like fishing for details. I didn't respond. I blocked the number and went back to my tea. I didn't owe anyone a narrative. A week later, Janine called to check in. Her voice was the same as always, calm, practical. "They've backed off," she said. "No more calls, no more clarifications. The clinic staff haven't been contacted again. That matters." "It does," I replied. She paused, then added, "You did something most people can't do. You didn't chase them for an apology. You made them live inside the facts." I looked down at the folder drawer. It stayed closed. "I just stayed quiet," I said. Janine gave a small breath that almost sounded like a laugh. Quiet isn't passive when it's structured. Don't forget that. After we hung up, I went for a walk near the river trail a few blocks from my house. Early morning, cool air. A few older couples moving slowly, comfortable in their silence. A runner passed me with earbuds in, eyes forward, like he was running from nothing and everything at once. I bought a coffee from a small stand and sat on a bench for a while, watching the water move. Not because I was trying to feel something, because I didn't have to fight to feel stable anymore. The odd thing was, once everything settled, I started noticing how often situations like mine happen, just quieter than people realize. A neighbor across the street mentioned a friend whose ex's family had tried to manage the divorce terms with pressure and sudden money. Another guy I knew from a gym years ago reached out, asking if I knew a good paralegal because his business partner's family was trying to push him out with a contract he didn't understand. Same pattern, different faces. People with power don't always shout. Sometimes they just write things down and hope you sign them fast. That's why I'm telling you this. Not to relive it, not to punish anyone. Just to say, if you ever feel rushed into an agreement, if someone puts money on the table and calls it clean, slow down, save everything, write the timeline, make the structure before you make the decision. Because silence can be protection when you build it correctly. If you stayed with me to the end, I want to ask you something honestly. If you had been in my place, would you have signed and walked away the way I did? Or would you have fought from the first minute? Tell me in the comments which city you're watching from and what time it is right now where you are. I read them. And if stories like this, quiet, real situations where the truth comes out through process instead of shouting, matter to you, take a second to like the video and subscribe. It helps more than you think. 2 popular stories will be waiting for you next.